Her own stepmother choked her to death on her wedding day, just so her stepsister could take her place and marry into a rich family. The stepmother bragged that once she was dead, the title of the Fu family's young mistress would go to her own daughter, Zhen's son. Just as they thought she was dead, Zhenjin showed up, totally horrified to see the body. But this wasn't because she felt bad. It turns out, Zhenjin had been reborn. In her last life, she had happily married into the Fu family after her sister was murdered, only to find out that her new husband had died in a car crash on their wedding day. They tortured and abused her until she died. Now that she was reborn right at the moment of her sister's murder, she was terrified of the same thing happening again and refused to go through with the wedding, begging her mother to save her sister instead. But as they were arguing, the supposedly dead girl suddenly sat up. They screamed terrified, asking if she was a human or a ghost. But what they didn't know was this wasn't the original girl anymore. She remembered the original owner's memories of being tormented by her stepmother and stepsister her whole life. She decided she had to get revenge. Her stepsister, thinking she was still the same weak girl, told her to get ready for the wedding. The noble lady called them out, revealing she knew her stepmother had just tried to kill her, so Zhenjin could take her place. She demanded they explain themselves. The stepmother denied everything, sure that her husband would believe her over his daughter. The stepsister freaked out, screaming that she wouldn't go. The stepmother asked her what she wanted. The noble lady demanded the dowry that they had gotten ready for Zhen's. With no other choice, the stepmother furiously agreed. After getting the money, the bride got ready to leave. As she got in the car, her stepmother and stepsister watched. The stepmother was furious that the girl not only lived but also took 2 large chunks of money. But her daughter just smiled. She told her mother not to worry. The money could be spent, but the girl wouldn't be alive long enough to enjoy it. Because at that exact moment the groom, Fu Tingyuan, had already died in a car crash. It was reported that the CEO of the Fu Group had been in a car accident, and nobody knew if he was alive or dead. But what the public didn't know was that he had actually survived. His assistant told him that someone had messed with the car, and since this wasn't the first time someone tried to kill him, they suspected it was an inside job from someone in the family. The CEO agreed, pointing the finger at his own uncle. If he were to die, his uncle would get everything. To expose the person behind it, he decided to fake his death, telling his assistant to let the police know that he was in the car when it crashed. His assistant was worried about how his fiancée would react, but the CEO had a plan. He was going to wear a mask and personally see how this new bride acted. Meanwhile, the bride arrived at the Fu family's mansion and was met by a man in a black mask, who said he was a bodyguard. He told her that her fiancé had been in a car accident and was probably dead. Hearing this, the bride's stepmother and stepsister, who had followed her, were shocked. Her stepsister made fun of her, saying she must be regretting marrying into the family now. Her stepmother threatened her, warning her not to try and run away, but the bride calmly said she wasn't planning on leaving. She walked right past them into the mansion where the family was grieving. She comforted the heartbroken grandmother, saying she believed her fiancé would come back safely. The groom's siblings were pissed, and his brother accused her of being a jinx, saying his brother had been fine until she came along. He tried to attack her, but she easily twisted his arm behind his back, which shocked everyone. The sister declared that since they weren't officially married, the bride was not her sister-in-law. The bride calmly replied that they would just wait for the groom to return to sort things out. The grandmother, touched by her faith, announced that the bride was now a part of the family, which really annoyed the siblings. Just then the groom's uncle showed up. He was hostile right away, telling his mother that this woman absolutely could not stay. Seeing that the uncle was the real person behind the attacks, the disguised groom watched him closely. The uncle ignored his mother's pleas and gave the bride a cruel test. To prove her love, she had to stand on a board of nails for 1 minute. The bride thought back to her past life as a noble lady, remembering her training to withstand pain. Without even hesitating, she stepped onto the nails. The family watched in stunned silence as she stood perfectly still, not showing any sign of pain. Even her stepmother and stepsister were shocked by how tough she was. The uncle, impressed even though he didn't want to be, announced that she had passed the test and could stay. As she stepped off, she stumbled, and the masked bodyguard rushed to catch her. He called her young madam, and she thanked him, though the intense way he looked at her made her feel weird. The uncle, still not happy, gave her another challenge. He brought out 4 ancient vases and told her she had 1 minute to figure out which one was the real deal. If she failed, she would be thrown out of the house. The bride looked at the vases and confidently pointed to one. Without any warning, the bride smashed the priceless vase on the ground. Everyone was in shock. Her family immediately went after her, screaming that she had just destroyed a treasure worth millions and that she would be kicked out of the family for it. The furious uncle declared he would not only kick her out but ruin her entire family too. But the woman was calm. She simply said that while the vase itself was a fake, what was hidden inside was real. From the broken pieces, a bright green light started to glow. It was the legendary Kilin jade pendant. a royal treasure that was said to give you a long life. The uncle scoffed, refusing to believe it, but she explained that only this specific jade could give off that kind of light. She handed the pendant to the grandmother, who confirmed it was the real thing. Since she won the challenge, the grandmother announced the bride could stay. Just as the family was processing all this, the uncle's phone rang. It was the rescue team. They had found the body of her husband, who had been missing and was thought to be dead. The news was too much for the old woman, and she collapsed from the shock. In the chaos that followed, the uncle suddenly pointed at the bride's masked bodyguard, screaming that he was the missing husband in disguise. The grandmother denied it was him, claiming it was just a weird coincidence. Convinced her real grandson was still alive, she ordered them to go check out the body that was found. As the family rushed out, the bride's mother and sister tried to leave, but the bride blocked their way and gave her mother a hard slap across the face. She told them she knew they had only come to laugh at her for failing. This slap, she said, was just the interest. From now on, she would slowly make them pay for everything. She declared that now, as the young mistress, even the head of their own family wouldn't dare talk to her like that. She then kicked her mother and sister out of the house. Once they were gone, her whole attitude changed. She apologized to the grandmother for how she acted, but the old woman was thrilled. She loved the bride's fiery spirit, thinking her missing grandson would have liked it too. As a reward, the grandmother assigned a mysterious masked bodyguard to be her personal protector. Later, in her new bedroom, the bride was celebrating when the bodyguard refused to leave. He suddenly knelt down and grabbed her foot, claiming the grandmother had sent him to check if she was hurt. Seeing right through his test, she kicked him to the floor, furious that he would dare to touch her. He then questioned her loyalty, pointing out that she had never even met her husband. So why would she be so faithful if he were really dead? The woman declared that she had admired him for a long time and would never cheat on him, even if he were gone. But what she didn't know was that the grandmother had already figured it all out. She confronted the bodyguard, who was actually her missing grandson in disguise. He admitted he was pretending to be a bodyguard to investigate his uncle, who he suspected was trying to kill him and take over the family. The grandmother warned him not to be mean to his new wife, but he just scoffed. At that very moment, the bride was celebrating after finding a law book that explained how she could inherit his entire fortune. The grandmother didn't care. She gave her grandson 1 month to expose his uncle. Then she expected him and the bride to give her a great-grandson. The uncle found out the body discovered by the river wasn't his nephew's, which confirmed his suspicion that the young heir was still alive. He immediately ordered his assistant to pull the file on the family's new bodyguard, Shenfeng. The file showed he looked a lot like the missing heir and had recently hurt his face, which explained the mask. The uncle dismissed it as a coincidence, convinced his nephew couldn't possibly be hiding right under his nose as a bodyguard, and figured he must have been blown to bits in the car explosion. Just then, his niece and nephew burst in, excitedly confirming that the body wasn't their brother's. He told them it was great news and sent them off with a pile of cash to get rid of their new sister-in-law, who he saw as a threat to his plans to take over the company. Meanwhile, the new bride, who had won over the grandmother, learned that her brother-in-law and sister-in-law had run away, refusing to live in the same house as her. Knowing she had to show them who was boss, she decided to track them down herself. She found them partying at a club, where they were openly making fun of their dead brother and praising their uncle for being so generous. She suddenly appeared, smashed a bottle, and told them it was past their bedtime. They told her to get lost, bragging that as the grandmother's biological grandkids, they would always be favorites over her, an outsider. She shot back that their family connection was the only thing they had going for them, because in every other way, they were completely worthless. This made the brother furious, but before he could attack her, he was knocked down by someone he didn't see. The furious brother ordered his guys to attack her, but just as they moved in, the family bodyguard quickly stepped in, taking them all down in seconds. The brother was pissed, yelling that the bodyguard was betraying the family by helping an outsider. But the woman just sneered. She said he was a coward for partying while his older brother's life was in danger. She insulted him, saying his mother must have raised the afterbirth instead of him. The man's younger sister tried to stick up for him, but the woman called her a brainless idiot who did nothing but follow her useless brother around. She even suggested the uncle was behind the older brother's disappearance. The brother was stunned. Desperate to save face, he challenged her, asking what she was good at besides running her mouth. He challenged her to a drinking contest. If he lost, he would call her sister-in-law. She accepted right away. The contest began, and they went bottle for bottle. He drank as fast as he could, but she matched him easily without even changing her expression. Soon, he was stumbling and slurring his words, claiming he wasn't even at full strength. The woman mocked him, asking if he was trying to raise fish with the little bit he was drinking. A second later, he collapsed onto the couch, completely passed out. Defeated, his sister bowed her head and called her sister-in-law, apologizing for how they acted. The woman turned to leave with the bodyguard, but as she walked away, she suddenly stumbled. The bodyguard caught her, realizing she had been faking it the whole time and was completely drunk. He carried her out to the car. In a drunken haze, she asked who he was. The man took off his mask, showing his real face, and told her that he was her husband. But she just laughed, slurring that her husband was dead. She added that she was happy about it, because now she wouldn't have to serve him anymore.